Every GTA 5 zombie mod has the same hidden problem. And it's not the zombies. The strange part is that it's something every player wants as quickly as possible. Without it, surviving feels almost impossible. But the moment you get it, the apocalypse slowly starts to disappear. So, why can one feature completely change the way every zombie apocalypse feels? Chapter 1. Why every survivor wants one. If there's one thing every player starts searching for the moment a zombie apocalypse begins, it's this. At first, it feels like the answer to almost every problem. And honestly, that's exactly what it's supposed to feel like. The opening hours of a zombie apocalypse are usually the most memorable because the world still has control over you. Every journey is uncertain. Leaving your safe house isn't just about getting from one place to another. It's about deciding whether the reward is worth the risk. Do you search one more building for food? Do you take the longer route to avoid a group of zombies? Or do you gamble on a shortcut because you are running out of supplies? Every decision has consequences, and that's what makes surviving so satisfying. Naturally, players begin to look for something that can tip the odds back in their favor. Not because they want to skip the apocalypse, but because they want to survive it. Then they finally find it. And what is it? A working vehicle. It feels like a reward you've earned. Suddenly, traveling is faster and escaping danger becomes far more reliable. The world feels less intimidating, but that's okay. You've survived long enough to deserve an advantage. And that's why almost every player is excited to get behind the wheel. The strange part is that nothing about it feels like a mistake. In fact, it feels like good game design, which raises a more important question. If vehicles feel so rewarding, why do they slowly make the apocalypse disappear? Chapter 2. How vehicles change survival. Finding a vehicle doesn't suddenly make the apocalypse disappear. In fact, the first few minutes are some of the most satisfying in the game. You're finally traveling faster, supply runs takes less time, exploring parts of the map that once felt impossible suddenly becomes realistic. It feels like all of your early struggles have paid off. But if getting a vehicle feels so rewarding, why do so many zombie playthroughs feels less exciting afterwards? The answer isn't that vehicles make you overpowered. It's much more subtle than that. They change the way you make decisions. Before, every journey forced you to think which route is safer. Should you search one more building? Can you make it home before more zombies arrive? Those questions weren't obstacles. They were the survival experience. They made every trip feel unpredictable because they were never a guaranteed outcome. Then the question begins to disappear. Instead of asking how you're going to reach your destination, you simply drive there. Streets that once slowed you down becomes roads you barely notice. Groups of zombies that would have forced you to change direction become something you pass without a single thought. The world stops demanding your attention. You're no longer surviving your way through, you're traveling across it. That's where the experience quietly changes. The vehicle hasn't removed the zombies. It hasn't removed the apocalypse. It's removed something much harder to notice. The decisions that make the apocalypse feel dangerous in the first place. So, if the zombies are still everywhere, why does the world suddenly stop feeling like it's fighting back? Chapter 3. Why this breaks immersion. At first, that might not sound like a problem. Isn't the whole point of survival to become stronger? If you fight your way through the hardest parts of the apocalypse, shouldn't life become easier? The answer is yes, but to a point. Becoming more capable is rewarding. The problem begins when the world stops demanding anything in return. Think about the best moment from a zombie playthrough. They usually aren't the moments where everything went according to plan. They are the moments where something went wrong. You took a risk for extra supplies, you got surrounded while searching for a building, you barely escaped with enough health to make it home. These moments stayed with you because the game forced you to adapt. Survival wasn't about winning every encounter, it was about responding to whatever the apocalypse threw at you. A consequence-free vehicle slowly removes those moments. Instead of making decisions, you begin to avoid them altogether. If a street looks dangerous, you drive around it. If a zombie blocks the road, you leave. If a supply run goes badly, your escape is already waiting outside. The apocalypse is still happening around you, but it has fewer opportunities to influence your decisions. And when the world stops affecting your decisions, it also stops feeling dangerous. That's why the biggest problem with vehicles isn't speed, storage, or even how easy it makes escaping. They are all symptoms. The real problem is that they replace uncertainty with certainty. Once every journey has an obvious solution, survival slowly turns into routine. So, if removing vehicles isn't the answer, what will make them strengthen the apocalypse instead of weakening it? Chapter 4: A Solution. The solution isn't to remove vehicles. In fact, they will create a totally different problem. A zombie apocalypse without vehicles wouldn't feel realistic for real. Trucks and motorcycles are part of almost every zombie story because they represent hope. They let you escape, transport supplies, although I don't think you transport supplies in GTA, and reach places they otherwise couldn't. The goal isn't to make vehicles disappear, it's to make them another surviving challenge instead of the end of one. The best survival mechanics aren't built around giving players fewer options. They are built around making every option comes with a cost. A vehicle should save time, but maybe fuel is running low. It should help you escape zombies, but the noise might attract even a bigger one. And that's the difference between a vehicle that supports the apocalypse and one that quietly destroys it. One removes problems, the other creates new ones. Instead of bypassing survival, it becomes part of survival. Every advantage asks for something in return, and that's what keeps the world dangerous no matter how experienced the player becomes. That is why the biggest mistake most GTA 5 zombie mods make isn't inclusion of vehicles. It's forgetting that every powerful mechanic needs a meaningful trade-off. The moment the world stops asking you for difficult decisions, it also stops feeling like an apocalypse. And maybe that's why the best zombie survival experience aren't the ones where you feel unstoppable. They are the ones where no matter how prepared you are, the world has a way of making you think twice before turning the key.